The Millionaire CEO thought it would be simple. Hire a woman to pose as his girlfriend, just long enough to make his ex jealous. No strings, no feelings, just a deal. But he never expected the act to feel so real, or for the woman playing pretend to quietly steal his heart. What began as a clever plan soon spiraled into something he couldn't control or walk away from. Under the blinding press lights and the sterile chill of the downtown conference hall, Nathan Hale adjusted his suit jacket, staring straight ahead as he stood at the podium. The room was packed with reporters, all eager for details on the 10-year anniversary celebration of Hale Media. Questions kept flying about sponsors, the program, and celebrity guests. He handled it all with his usual polite demeanor, barely blinking until she walked in. Isabelle Laurent entered like she owned the air in the room, elegant in her deep red outfit, her lips curving into a smile that could cut glass. She sat down next to Nathan as if it was planned and leaned into the mic perfectly. "Of course I'll attend your event," she said calmly, with a voice that sounded well-rehearsed. "It's fascinating to see what a decade of independence has brought you." She paused just long enough to draw everyone's attention. "Maybe this time you'll bring a real girlfriend, not just a hired actress in sparkly clothes." Laughter erupted from the press corps. Nathan's smile stayed diplomatic, but something shifted in his jaw. Isabel knew exactly where to strike, and she always hit spot on. After the press conference, Nathan stood alone at the edge of the stage, watching Isabel glide into the shadows of the hall. His assistant, Joel, approached quietly, his voice soft. "She teased you again." "She always does," Nathan muttered. "Not this time, though." That afternoon, Nathan found himself driving aimlessly through the city, tension still coiled in his chest. He needed fresh air, space, something real. Without thinking, he turned onto a quiet street in West Los Angeles, where old fig trees arched overhead and buildings hadn't yet been replaced by glass and steel. He parked in front of an old ballet studio. The windows were dusty, the gold sign cracked and peeling, but something was moving inside. He stepped closer, drawn by the motion behind the frosted glass. Inside, a woman in gray workout clothes was wiping the mirrors, her posture tired but steady. Then suddenly, she stopped, straightened up, and raised her arms in a graceful, silent gesture. In that fleeting moment, she wasn't cleaning anymore. She was dancing. Nathan stood still, watching. Her back arched, one leg extending forward in a classic line, and for a few seconds, she seemed to forget the world. Then she quickly stopped, lowered her arms, and went back to scrubbing. He stepped inside. A bell rang overhead. The woman startled. "We're closed," she said without turning around. "I'm not here for a class," Nathan replied. She glanced over her shoulder with a cautious look. Her hair was loosely tied, her face tired but striking, shaped by something stronger than time. Resilience. "Were you watching me?" "It wasn't on purpose," Nathan said honestly, "but I couldn't look away." She frowned. "That's not as charming as you think." He smiled. "I'm not trying to be charming. I'm trying to make you an offer." She crossed her arms defensively. "I don't do private performances." "I'm not looking for a performance," Nathan said. "At least it's not like that." "So, what do you want?" "I need a girlfriend." She raised her eyebrows. "Excuse me, just for one night," he explained. "Publicly at a gala. As a statement." She blinked at him. "Why not hire a model I could?" He said, "But they're all too rehearsed." "You're different," she scoffed, full of doubt. "You don't even know my name. That's easy to fix." He stepped forward and extended his hand. "Nathan Hale." She looked at his hand, then at his face. "Ava. Ava," he repeated. "I see the way you carry yourself. I know presence when I see it. That's what I need. I don't want to be anyone's prop. I don't need a prop. I need someone who can make them believe I'm in love. And you think I can fake that, I think," Nathan said softly. "You've been through enough to understand what love should look like." Her expression didn't change, but something flashed in her eyes. "What's in it for me?" He laid out the terms. "Payment, wardrobe, everything. No kissing," she said. Nathan chuckled lightly. "Unless you change your mind, that won't happen." He stepped closer, his voice gentle but steady. "I don't want just anyone standing next to me. I want someone who makes them believe I chose you because I couldn't help it. I want them to feel what I wish I'd felt a long time ago. Can you do that for a moment?" Ava didn't say anything. Then she slowly nodded, and just like that, a performance began. A performance that neither of them expected to feel so real. It was well past midnight when Nathan found himself scrolling through his phone, ignoring unread emails and company reports. Instead, his screen was filled with ballet clips, faded performances, quiet rehearsals, and, in most of them, Ava. Her movements were precise, graceful. Her presence was captivating. One solo clip made him hold his breath. She danced like she'd swallowed fire and tamed it, but for nearly 3 years, she'd vanished from the ballet world. Curious, Nathan dug deeper. The headlines were harsh. City's ballet prodigy suspended after allegations that shook the company. Whispers and winks. The Ava Lane scandal and her most damaging charm or strategy. Rising star linked to reporter in a PR storm. He opened the article. A photo showed Ava at dinner, leaning toward a man in a tuxedo, her hand lightly on his arm, her expression unreadable. The media labeled it as seduction, but Nathan saw something else. Weariness, maybe desperation. The article described her as manipulative, implying she'd fabricated harassment claims for attention. It accused her of using the spotlight for gain. Just another scandal hunter. But Nathan didn't feel that. He saw a survivor. The next morning, he found her on the rooftop. Ava was stretching by the railing, with Los Angeles sparkling behind her. She looked over as he approached, her eyes still steady but tired. "You Googled me." "I did," Nathan answered. "You needed to know." She turned back to the horizon. "What about you?" "Not really," he admitted. "But maybe I can help you." Ava sat on the ledge, her voice low and even. "I was 23. I had lead roles. People noticed. It made me vulnerable. I stopped. The artistic director gave me the lead in the season finale. 2 weeks later, he locked me in the dressing room and made it clear he expected more." Nathan was silent, his jaw clenched. "I reported it. They did an internal review. Then they suspended me, said I was disrupting morale." She looked down at her hands. "I was young, scared. A reporter reached out. I hoped someone would believe me. We met at a fundraiser. Someone took a photo. The next day, the story flipped. I was the one using him for publicity." Her voice wavered. "After that, I became toxic. Sponsors pulled out. Dancers avoided me. I didn't quit dancing. It quit me." "You've survived," Nathan said painfully. Nathan sat next to her. "You've done odd jobs, wiped floors, tried to forget that ache of wanting something so badly." Nathan sat next to her. "You're not naive. You're brave. I believe truth matters." Still, Ava turned to look at him. "Why do you care?" "Because when I met you, I saw someone who once believed in something. I have a gala coming up. Everyone will be watching. I want them to see you. They'll only see the scandal. Then I'll help them see something else. Your grace, not their gossip." Ava stood up. She moved slowly but elegantly. The wind tousled her hair. "And you think they'll listen? I think they'll listen if they see what I see." She looked away, adjusting her shoe. "You don't know me." "Not yet," Nathan said. "But you want to." That night, Nathan sent a single clip to a choreographer he trusted, an old video of Ava dancing under the moonlight. With it, he wrote, "Tell me this woman doesn't deserve another stage." Back on the rooftop, Ava practiced. She moved with quiet strength, a silent defiance in every line of her form. And Nathan, watching from a distance, realized something profound. She wasn't waiting to be saved. She'd already saved herself. All he had to do was help the world see it. Ava had 3 conditions before agreeing to the role Nathan proposed. First, no one knows her real name. Second, no one from the ballet world in any press. Third, and most importantly, no exploitation, no subtle digging into her past, no hints of redemption through romance. She wouldn't be saved. Not this time. Nathan agreed. And so, the transformation began. Ava spent the next week in fitted showrooms, learning to glide in heels, experimenting with lipstick shades she once thought belonged to another world. Nathan accompanied her to fittings and media training, letting her decide what felt real, what fit. At first, she approached it like a role. professional, detached. But over time, something changed. She'd reach up and adjust his tie right before a photo, smoothing the knot with quiet precision. She never said a word while doing it, never looked at him. But Nathan noticed. It wasn't performative. It was caring, simple, intimate in a strangely real way. When alone, Ava sat by the rooftop window, scribbling notes on a yellow notepad. It was supposed to be a made-up story about how Nathan and Ava met, how they fell in love at a charity event in Rome, but her pages were scattered with odd tangents. Why did you drop out of architecture school? Do you ever miss those quiet mornings? Was your dad kind? Nathan had found the pages, left on a bench outside the studio. He read them in silence. When Ava returned, she froze. "You're scripting," he said, handing back the paper. "Or are you just curious, that evening?" "When? Or are you really curious?" She took the paper, not replying. That evening, sitting side by side in the back of a car, Nathan watched Ava lean against the window, gazing at the sky. "You look at the stars a lot," he whispered. "They don't ask questions." She answered. Still, Nathan started answering the questions she'd written. He told her about college, about building Hale Media from his dorm room, about his mom who never understood his drive, and his dad who never forgave it. He even admitted that there were nights he woke up thinking about all the people he'd overtaken and left behind. And Ava listened, not like someone learning a part, but like someone starting to care. The gala night arrived like thunder on the horizon. The venue glittered with chandeliers and champagne. Celebrities mingled with media moguls. And in the midst of it all was Ava, radiant in a midnight blue dress, back straight, eyes calm. She moved like royalty, but without arrogance. Her poise was natural, not rehearsed. She was a mystery everyone gravitated toward. Nathan couldn't take his eyes off her. When they entered the ballroom, whispers spread through the crowd. Cameras whirred, reporters leaned in, and somewhere near the bar, Isabelle Laurent narrowed her eyes. She was ready to mock Nathan's latest PR romance. She didn't expect it to be Ava Lane. They met later in the hallway outside the main ballroom. "Of all the names you could dust off," Isabelle said with a strained smile, swirling her drink. "You chose her." Nathan said nothing. "She's a disaster waiting to happen." Isabelle continued. "Don't you remember what she did to herself? A whisper to the right reporter. A photo in the wrong hands and boom, she's a headline. And you, my dear, are collateral." "She did nothing but tell the truth," Nathan said, his voice low. Isabelle raised an eyebrow. "You realize she seduced a reporter when they heard her story, Isabelle. I was in the room when they pulled the article. It was damage control." Nathan stepped closer. "I was in the room when they buried her, not when they heard her story." Isabelle studied him, something flashing in her expression. "Are you serious about her?" "I'm serious about not letting another woman be destroyed for someone else's comfort," Nathan said. "And Ava Lane is stronger than you think." Isabel's smirk faded for a second. "You'll regret this." Nathan's gaze stayed firm. "Only if I don't stand by her." Back inside, Ava stood under a skylight, her face lit with golden tones. As Nathan approached, she looked up at the stars as usual, and in that moment, Nathan realized she wasn't acting anymore, and neither was he. The elevator chimed softly as Nathan led Ava to the rooftop of Hale Media headquarters. It was late, past midnight, and the city below was a sea of twinkling lights and distant sirens. Ava had never been this high up since she left the stage. There was something sacred about the silence between them as they stepped onto the rooftop, but what took her breath away wasn't the view. In the far corner of the rooftop, under a string of lights and the clear sky, stood a small, square wooden platform. On its edge was a tall, clean mirror framed in brass. And beside it, on a folded velvet cloth, was a pair of pale pink point shoes. Her shoes. Ava froze. "I found out your old studio had closed," Nathan said gently. "So I built this." She turned to him, emotions swirling in her chest. "Why?" "Because I see you," he said, "not as a headline, not as someone who survived something ugly, but as someone who creates something beautiful. You're not a victim. Ava, you're an artist." The wind tousled her hair, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ava stepped slowly toward the platform, almost reverently. She knelt beside the shoes, her fingers brushing the ribbons. "These are mine," she whispered. "How I asked around." Whispers. "Your old wardrobe mistress had them in a box." Ava sat on the edge of the wooden floor and lifted one shoe onto her lap. She ran her hand over the worn satin, the faint scratches on the toes. The sight stirred something in her that she hadn't dared feel in years, and without a word, she slipped one on. It took her 10 minutes to stretch, to remember how to point, how to rise gently to releve without shaking. Nathan sat a short distance away, silent, letting her move at her own rhythm. Her first arabesque was hesitant. She lost balance, but she kept going. She danced again. That night became a ritual. On nights when events ended, when the gala lights faded and cameras were put away, Nathan and Ava would return to the rooftop. Sometimes she danced. Sometimes she just stretched, sat, and talked. Nathan often brought a sketchbook and quietly drew her, sometimes just her feet in motion, sometimes her outline against the sky. "I used to sketch to clear my mind," he said one night as he handed her a page. "Now I sketch because I want to remember." The page showed her mid-pirouette, hair flying, eyes closed. Ava stared at the drawing for a long time, then smiled. One night, she sent him a photo. The photo arrived just after midnight. A shot of her old point shoes lying by the bed, ribbons tangled but secure. The message read, "They're not torn yet." Nathan stared at the photo, his heart tightening. He typed back, "Neither are you." She didn't reply, but the next evening, she was on the rooftop when he arrived, shoes on, hair tied back, waiting. And when she danced that night, she didn't look at the stars. She looked at him. It started like most attacks do, quietly, almost surgically. A blog post, a headline on a mid-tier gossip site. Then it spread like wildfire through social media feeds. From ballet to billionaire, Ava Lane's real comeback strategy. The article hinted at everything without confirming anything. It questioned whether Ava was using her relationship with Nathan Hale as a stepping stone back into the spotlight. It resurfaced old photos from a charity event years ago, Ava smiling next to a reporter, her hand lightly on his arm. That was enough. Within hours, Isabel fueled it with quotes from insiders on talk shows. She smiled at the cameras, her voice sweet. "I just hope Nathan knows what he's doing. Some people will do anything for fame." By evening, Ava's phone was buzzing nonstop. The worst came as an email from the casting director of Requiem in Red, a contemporary ballet she'd dreamed of joining for years. "Dear Ms. Lane, we appreciate your audition. However, due to unforeseen developments, we're proceeding with another candidate. No explanation, no room for appeal, just rejection." That night, Ava didn't answer Nathan's messages. She climbed to the rooftop alone. The city below buzzed with indifference, headlights flashing like stars too far to care. She paced the small wooden floor Nathan had built, the only space where she felt like herself. Weeks ago, its brass frame soft under, she stood before the mirror he'd placed weeks ago, its brass frame soft under the moonlight. Her reflection stared back, calm, broken, angry. Without thinking, she picked up a small pottery shard from the platform's edge and threw it. The glass cracked in a jagged line, spreading outward. A few minutes later, she knelt, sobbing. When Nathan arrived moments later, he found her there, head bowed, fingers digging into the wood, her breath catching in her throat like a song refusing to escape. "I can't do this," she whispered as she heard him. He knelt beside her. "Yes, you can." She shook her head. "They don't see a dancer. They see a headline, a cautionary tale in a designer dress. Every time I step forward, they pull me back to a version of me that never existed." Nathan lightly touched her arm. "That never existed." Nathan lightly touched her arm. "Then don't dance for them." She looked at him, confused. "Dance for yourself," he said gently. "Dance because you need to, because it will heal you. And if you can't dance for yourself yet, then dance for me." She fell into his arms, and he held her tight, her tears soaking his shirt, neither saying another word for what felt like forever. The next morning, Nathan took action that changed everything. He canceled his afternoon meetings, called his media team, and by noon, The press release was live across major outlets. Nathan Hale, the man who rarely spoke about his personal life, was standing in front of cameras and microphones. "Everyone knows who I am," he began. "Maybe you don't know who she is." He paused, letting the silence build and the tension hang. "Ava Lane isn't a scandal. I'm not giving her a second chance. She's the one giving me a second chance to be more than a CEO who sells stories. She's talented, she's strong, and she's someone I deeply admire." He continued, his voice unwavering. "I'm not in love with her because it's calculated. I fell for her because she stood up when others told her to kneel. I feel moved because after everything, she still dares to dance." Silence fell over their room. That night, Hale Media released the first teaser for their latest documentary project, Last Dance. No fancy graphics, no interviews, just black and white footage from the rooftop. Ava tying her shoes, Ava stretching in silence, Ava falling and rising. In one haunting moment, she turned to the camera, sweat on her forehead, her voice small but clear. "I never tried to be famous. I just wanted to feel the music again." The internet exploded, not with hate, but with support. Ballet lovers, survivors, artists, women who'd been told their voices were too loud, their ambitions too big. Ava received thousands of messages. One simply said, "You danced for me too." That night, she stood in front of the mirror again. The crack still split her reflection, but she didn't look away. She raised her arms and danced. Nathan was never one to let others fight his battles. And this time, it wasn't just a battle. Justice had been overdue. While the press obsessed over the Last Dance teaser, Nathan worked quietly behind the scenes. He hired a discreet team of investigators, workplace harassment lawyers, trauma therapists to support any potential accusers. For weeks, Nathan traced back the root of Ava's fall, the man who orchestrated her silence. Victor Kessler, the esteemed artistic director of the City Ballet Company. Nathan's team uncovered more than just Ava's case. There were others. Dancers who quit without explanation, deleted emails that were recovered, contracts with vague ethics clauses used to silence anyone who spoke up. Nathan's blood boiled as the truth unfolded. When the internal report was complete, he called a press conference. The room was packed. Reporters, cameras, legal observers, and Ava sat quietly in the front row, hands clenched in her lap. Clenched in her lap. Nathan stood behind the podium, his expression sharper than ever. Today, we release the results of an internal investigation into misconduct at one of the entertainment companies in which Hale Media holds a minority stake. What we've uncovered is alarming, but necessary to face. He paused. The individual in question, Victor Kessler, abused his position, silencing multiple women and derailing their careers under the guise of artistic control. Ava Lane was one of them. A collective gasp rose. "This stops now." Nathan turned to Ava, his voice carrying quiet power. No one should silence a voice brave enough to speak truth. Ava Lane isn't just a survivor. She's a force, a beacon, and she deserves more than an apology. She deserves the stage that was stolen from her. He let the silence settle. Effective immediately, Hale Media is divesting all interests in companies associated with this history. Instead, we're launching the She Speaks Initiative, a nonprofit fund for recovery and legal support to protect, empower, and amplify artists silenced by power. The room erupted in applause. Flashes went off nonstop. Ava didn't cry. She stood firm, eyes locked on Nathan. That night, the outdoor arena glowed like a dream. It had been built in just 2 weeks, an architectural wonder overlooking LA's skyline. Rows of seats stretched under the starry sky, and on the stage, a minimal set with soft lights, white curtains, and a single wooden floor. No orchestra, no costumes, just Ava. The performance was called Resonance. It was her story told through movement, silence, music, and pauses. She started with her back to the audience, hands trembling at her sides. Then she moved, sharp, raw, restrained, and furious. She danced through silence, shame, and resilience. But then something shifted. Her movements elongated, stretched. Her steps grew bold, elegant, and defiant. By the finale, Ava spun under the stage lights like she was made of fire and breath. She didn't dance like she was reclaiming something. She danced like it had never been taken. The final notes faded. The crowd rose. Applause thundered. Tears flowed. Cheers echoed. And then, to everyone's surprise, Nathan stepped onto the stage. At first, he said nothing. Then, he gently placed his hand over his heart. Looking at her, "You once asked me why I trusted you," he said, his voice soft but reaching every corner of the theater. "Because I've never seen anyone rise like you. You don't need the world to give you a voice. You already have one." He stepped closer. "No one can bring you down, Ava, unless you believe they have the right to." She looked at him with emotion in her eyes, and for the first time in years, she let herself believe she wasn't alone anymore. The lights dimmed, the crowd cheered, but the loudest sound wasn't the applause. It was hope, breaking through the air like the first note of a new symphony. The world no longer whispered Ava Lane's name in scandal. Now, they said it with respect. Her return to the stage sparked something far greater than a performance. It ignited a movement. The media began calling her the Phoenix of ballet. Social media posts trended not with scandals, but with quotes from her final monologue. Critics declared her solo the bravest performance of the decade. But for Ava, the feeling ran deeper than validation. She was free, not just to dance, but to live unburdened. She received countless offers for endorsements, brand deals, talk shows, even a biographical film contract. But Ava only accepted what aligned with her values. She spoke at universities, visited struggling art schools, and dedicated herself to mentoring young dancers who'd felt small. She didn't have to shout to be heard anymore. She spoke louder. Meanwhile, Nathan stood at a crossroads. A major conglomerate approached him, a $1 billion offer to buy out Hale Media and merge it into their empire. The deal would solidify his legacy in the industry forever. His board leaned in. His advisors urged him to sign, but he didn't. Instead, on a quiet Wednesday morning, Nathan called his own press conference. Hale Media was never just about profit. "I'm not accepting this buyout offer," he said simply. A gasp rippled through the room. Hale Media was never just about profit. "We believe in meaningful stories, overlooked voices, talents that deserve nurturing, not consuming." He paused, glancing toward the back of the room where Ava stood, arms folded, silent and proud. "To achieve that, we're announcing the establishment of a new space, the Ava Lane Institute for the Performing Arts." The crowd erupted. Ava's mouth fell open in disbelief. Nathan continued, "This will be a haven for dancers, musicians, writers, anyone who's been told you're too much or not enough. Here, your art will be safe. Your truth will be honored." That night, after the applause, after the questions, after the lights dimmed, Ava found him alone in the studio on the rooftop, their sanctuary. The mirror had been fixed. Her shoes were in place. The sky stretched above them, dark, vast, and endless. She stepped toward him, not as a performer, not as a survivor, but simply as Ava. "You turned down a $1 billion deal," she said softly. "For me," he nodded. "For you." He looked at her, stepping closer, his voice quiet and steady. "No," he said. "For us." She blinked, her heart tightening. "I've chosen this," he continued. "I've chosen every moment of this life, this fight, this truth. Not because I had to, but because I can't imagine any other way. I'm not giving anything up. I've chosen it all for you." He reached out, brushing her hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her skin. "Because you remind me of who I want to be." Ava didn't answer with words. She didn't need to. Instead, she stepped into his arms, where her heart had decided to stay, and the city continued to shine below them. Quiet, eternal, and full of promise. A year later, the rooftop was no longer silent with broken mirrors and doubting whispers. The laughter of children echoed, where once was now. The laughter of children echoed, where once was a private haven for healing pain. It had transformed into a beautiful space. The outdoor rooftop stage was adorned with string lights and wooden benches overlooking Los Angeles' skyline. Ava and Nathan had turned it into a training ground for young dancers, many of whom had believed the stage wasn't for them. Tonight was the official opening performance of the Ava Lane Institute for the Performing Arts, and though the crowd was small, just a handful of parents, friends, and a few invited guests, it felt monumental. Ava stood at the edge of the stage, watching a group of tiny dancers in white leotards perform the finale. Their movements weren't perfect, but they were fearless. She saw herself in them, not the polished ballerina of before, but the girl who danced in her bedroom to escape a world trying to silence her. The music swelled and then subsided. The final note lingered in the air like a breath, and the children bowed. Applause rang out, parents cheered, some wiped tears, and then from the shadows nearby, Nathan stepped forward. He wore a tailored black suit, simple and elegant, but his eyes, those eyes, were gentle, uncertain, like a man about to take the biggest leap of his life. He climbed the small wooden steps to the stage, something hidden behind his back. Ava tilted her head, curious, wondering what he was doing. The children scattered gently, making way for him. Then he took a deep breath and produced a small velvet box. Everything else, the wind, the lights, the city noise seemed to vanish. Nathan's voice was calm, but his heart wasn't. "You once told me," he began, "that you don't need anyone to lift you up, that you'd learned to stand on your own a long time ago." Ava held her breath. The memory was vivid, her defiant words from a lifetime ago on this very rooftop. Nathan went on, his voice full of emotion. "I never want to take away your strength. I just want to be the one standing below you, arms open, ready to catch you if you fall." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, delicate yet strong, like her. A small golden dancer curved into the band, arms raised as if in flight. "If you'll allow it," Nathan said, "I want to spend every day cheering you on. Hold your hand when you're tired, stand back when you need space, and lift you up only if and when you want me to." Ava blinked, tears welling up before she could stop them. "And when you dance," he whispered, "I want to be the luckiest one standing right below." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ava stepped forward, one hand pressed to her heart. She said nothing. She just nodded once, twice, then broke into tears. Nathan laughed softly, then slipped the ring onto her finger as the children clapped again, not fully understanding what they were witnessing, but feeling the magic of it all. That night, after everyone had left and the lights were out, Ava and Nathan stood at the edge of the rooftop, looking out at the city they now called home. The wind danced around them, carrying the scent of jasmine and promises. Nathan wrapped his arm around her waist, and Ava leaned into him, her hand, now with the ring, fit perfectly in his. They stood there for a while, watching the traffic, the lights, and life unfolding peacefully far below. Then Ava stepped back, with a smile only he could see. She raised her arms, and under the moon on the stage that had saved her, she spun, a perfect spin, and when she stopped, she didn't land alone but in the arms of the man she once thought was just a performance. They kissed, not like a grand finale, but like a new beginning. And the rooftop, once a quiet spot, became the peak of a love story that was never meant to be fake. What this story teaches us is that even the quietest voices can hold the deepest truths. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment of unexpected connection, a look, a gesture, a shared silence to remind someone they are not alone. Through vulnerability, compassion, and quiet strength, our main character opened a door to healing, not just for themselves, but for someone else who needed it just as much. If this story moved you, we invite you to send your support to the person who dared to stay, to listen, to be present. They showed us that healing doesn't require perfection, only the courage to stay one more day. We'd love to hear what you think. What would you do in their place? And what might their next step look like? Leave a comment and share your thoughts with our growing community. For more heartwarming stories like this one, filled with courage, second chances, and unexpected love, be sure to subscribe to Touching Tales Hub. Every story is a reminder that hope can begin in the most surprising places.